Mr. Roan. You make me sound a lot cooler than I actually am. Don't believe the hype, y'all. Congratulations, Simon Gratz Mastery School Class of 2018. Get hype! This is your time, y'all. I believe that there's a time for everything under the sun, and this is a time to celebrate. High school graduation is no small thing, so I'm very proud of all y'all. Go Bulldogs. Now, yes, okay. Now, I first and foremost have got to thank Principal Bennett. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at Simon Gratz Mastery Charter graduation. It is an honor for me to come here and to speak to y'all. I am invited to speak to a lot of people in a lot of different places, so I do not take this lightly. My favorite people to speak to, of course, are people of color, because we are black, we are brown, we are beautiful, and we gonna be all right. Ain't that what Kendrick Lamar taught us? Ain't that what he said? We gonna be all right, right? So now I realize that I am actually what stands between you and these diplomas, all right? So, so I promise that I will not be before you long. Now, as I was preparing the speech, I thought to myself about the fact that many, many years ago, I graduated from high school. It was many years ago, y'all, I promise. And I sat where y'all are sitting. Not literally where y'all sitting, but I sat and I thought long and hard about what I would have wanted to hear from my commencement speaker. And as I thought about my upbringing, I thought about the trials and triumphs that I've been through. And you know what I would have wanted my commencement speaker to tell me? I would have wanted to know that my story matters. So I'm here to actually tell y'all that your story matters and that our stories matter collectively, not just for the students, but for everybody in the stands. Okay, so this is a message for everybody. So as Principal Bennett shared with you a moment ago, your story does not define you. So one of my favorite contemporary writers is Ta-Nehisi Coates. He is an author, a journalist, and the writer of the latest editions of the Black Panther comic, Wakanda Forever. Y'all gonna leave me hanging? Come on, let's do it together. Wakanda Forever, all right? I ain't tired of it. I ain't gonna be tired of it. And so he wrote an article. He wrote an article in the Atlantic, and it was entitled "On Homecomings." In his article, he actually writes about returning back to Prospect Lefford Gardens. It's a neighborhood in Brooklyn. And he wanted to go there because that's where he lived before he blew up and got famous. And so returning back to Brooklyn was one of his dreams. If he had his way, it would have been actually a part of his story. But due to his newfound fame, he couldn't live there anymore. So, and the reason why is because the papers were posting pictures of his house. They were blasting his address everywhere on the internet, stalking his kid's Instagram page. It was getting dangerous, so he couldn't live there anymore. And so the article was written over 2 years ago. But there's a quote in there, and he said this. I've never forgotten it. Coates said, "We all carry our stories. It's simple, it's short, yet profound. We all carry our stories." So my question for you is, what stories are you carrying today, right now, in this moment? What stories are buried underneath your caps and your gowns? Are you the child of a single mom or dad? If so, that's me. Maybe your grandma, your grandpa raised you, or maybe it was your aunt and your uncle. Did you grow up in a two-parent household? Did you grow up in low-income housing, aka the projects? If so, that's me too. Maybe part of your story is that you can't go to your dream college that you want to go to. If so, that was my story too. Are you the awkward one who didn't fit in with everybody at school? I don't know all of your stories that you brought with you today. But regardless of what your story is, I want you to know that our stories matter. So there's 3 points I want you to take away today. The first point is that your story doesn't define you. The second point is that you have the power to actually change your story. And the third is that you should never, ever forget your ghostwriters. First point, your story does not define you. No matter what your story is, remember that your story doesn't define you. You define your story. You own your story. Your story doesn't own you. I don't care if your story is considered good or bad by society. Your worth is not defined by your story. You have infinite value and worth apart from your story because God has given you dignity and humanity, and nobody can take that away from you. The only one who gets to define your story for you, outside of you, is the God who created you. One of my favorite singers is Lauryn Hill, and I'm dating myself here, I know. But her album, MTV Unplugged 2.0, she said this: whenever we submit our will to someone else's opinion, a part of us dies. So I'm asking you, what parts of you are dying because you allowed your story or someone else to define your story for you? We all carry our stories, but your story does not have the final say on your life. We all carry our stories, but you have the power to actually define your story. Point number 2, you have the power to change your story. You are not what happened to you. Brian Stevenson, the founder and executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative, wrote this in his book, Just Mercy. He said, each of us is more than the worst thing that we have ever done. And why is that? Because we have all been given God-given dignity and humanity and worth because of who we are. There are people outside of our community, and to be more specific, racist people, who will tell us that we don't belong in this country that our people built. There are others who will give you that same message by questioning your admission into college because you came from North Philly and not Abington. Questioning your success at trade school or in the military, or questioning your promotion on the job that you have or you will obtain. Can I tell you something though? Those racist messages that say that you don't belong are a lie from the pit of hell. That's their weak attempt to define your story for you. But you have the power to actually change your story simply because it is yours. When those messages come, don't internalize it, don't believe it. Instead, say to yourself, I belong. I am enough. Can y'all repeat after me? I belong. I am enough. Yes, and believe that. Get it from your head down into your soul, okay? So this is my charge to you today. Become what you already are. Don't live beneath your dignity and your worth. We all carry our stories, but you have the power to change your story, y'all. This is my last point right here. Point number 3. Never, ever forget your ghostwriters. All right, y'all. So I'm a huge hip-hop head. I grew up in the old golden era of hip-hop, so I was rocking to a Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, The Roots. I know The Roots got love up in here, their hometown city. And so that was way before y'all's time. But all of the greats use, well, not all, but most of them use ghostwriters, okay? And now, there are levels to ghostwriting, but it can be as minor as somebody giving a suggestion in the studio while the rapper's laying down the track. It could be somebody co-writing the lyrics to help the rapper, or it could be somebody straight up writing the lyrics for the rapper, but they never ever get the credit, right? That's why they're ghostwriters. So here's the irony of graduations. Your name is called, you celebrate, you do your dance, your family cheers for you, but peep this. You didn't earn the diploma by yourself. It took a lot of love, patience, care, and belief in your capabilities from your village, your own ghostwriters. Now, ghostwriters, they never get the shine, but they're going to get some shine today, all right? So, who are your ghostwriters? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your brothers, your sisters, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunts, your uncles? Is it your block captain? Those are your village members. Those are your ghostwriters. What about these ghostwriters? What about Mr. Rome? What about Miss Fields? What about Mr. Thomas? Mrs. Keelis? Mr. Chaplin? Mr. Hamilton? Miss S? What about Miss Biney? How about Coach Zip? And last but not least, all the other staff members that helped to bring you to this moment. We all carry our stories, but never forget your ghostwriters, okay? None of us accomplish anything by ourselves. None of us do. We all carry our stories, but our stories do not define us. We all carry our stories, but we have the power to actually change our story. We all carry our stories, but never ever forget your ghostwriters. Our stories matter. That's why we carry them. Congratulations, Simon Gratz, class of 2018. Make some noise. Thank you.